Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Chatter with Coach. Now this week there may be a little bit of background noise. It's a hot day in August. I've got the window open a little bit next door. Kids are running around playing in the garden. I'm not going to stick my head out the door and ask them to keep it down because I'm recording a YouTube video. So apologies if you do pick a little bit of that up in the background, but I'm sure we'll be fine. So this week we are looking at whether or not you need to follow a program, a training plan, anything like that. Whether you need to have some sessions to follow, or whether instead you freestyle it, you work it out for yourself, you do something less structured. And this really is going to come down ultimately to the kind of person that you are, as well as the time that you have available, your budget in some cases. Try to understand what are sort of the primary factors that will help us decide whether we should be doing something structured or whether we should be doing something that is a bit more sort of free flow. Now, I think the biggest sort of factor in this decision is that it really depends on where you are in your journey. So a lot of people who are just starting out in whatever kind of sport or area of fitness that it is that they're doing. When they're a beginner, they will like to follow a training plan or a program of some sort, because for them, they're not sure what it is that they should be doing. They've tried lots of times just trying to make it up as they go, and it hasn't worked. And they've come across a plan that they're going to follow. It could be a Couch to 5K running plan. It could be a sort of something to get bigger arms in the gym. Whatever it is that they're doing, they found this and they go, here, if I follow this 6-week plan, this 10-week plan, this 12-week plan, it's going to bring me closer to my goal. And they like that because it keeps them focused, and it allows them to definitely know that what they're doing is going to be bringing them closer to their goal, as opposed to having to spend a lot of time trying to work out what it is that works and doesn't work for them through trial and error. Then when somebody gets to a certain point, they've finished that training plan and they start to understand a lot of the principles. They find themselves to watch things on YouTube or areas of social media, and they go, oh, you know what, I don't need a training plan because all the information's out there, and I'm going to work out for myself what it is that I need, because I found this person on YouTube that says this is the best exercise to do for this. Found this person that says this is the best way to cycle train, and going to do this, and they sort of go off on their own sort of little adventure, which I don't think is a bad thing. They step out of that constrained kind of like sort of baby steps almost of a beginner's training plan, and they move towards sort of trying to find out what works for them. It's a little bit like when somebody leaves home. You know they're going to go out there. They're going to make mistakes. That they're going to get themselves into a spot of trouble. But that exploration phase can be really quite important. And what generally happens is that people will get to a certain level where they will get a bit more advanced. It could be they did using running as an example, they Couch to 5K, and they fudged their way up to 10K and a half marathon, but it was actually really hard, and there were loads of people faster than them, and they ended up injured. And by the time they trained for a full marathon, yes, can I help? By the time they trained for a full marathon, they realised that actually, they do need help. They can't just go along, and they can't sort of make it up as they go along. A marathon is a really long way to go. And trying to keep her quiet, and I'm getting licks for my trouble. I'm recording this a bit later than usual. It's a bit close to a dinner time. I've probably made a mistake here. But we, they decide that a marathon they need help for. Or it could be that they are just training in the gym and they've stopped seeing progress. They're not sure where to go from here, and they throw a pen on the floor. They're not sure where to go from this, and they go, you know what, I'm actually going to find myself a program. I found this guy who's like a top bodybuilding coach, and he's got this great plan for arms and back, and that's what I want to focus on. And they then go down this. So there's people start off with a training plan. So it's nice and easy. Then you get to that intermediate level, they probably go on their own little exploration journey. And then once they get really good and they struggle to see progress, they'll then go back towards a structured plan. Not to say that is the way you have to go. A lot of people will never touch a plan and they'll make everything up themselves. Equally, some people, they just love the structure and they will follow training plans all the way through. It's just a general observation of what I've seen and sort of the types of programs that which programs are sold that have been sort of done the best. So the main objective of a training plan is to help you achieve your goals, but in a sustainable fashion. Now, it's really quite easy, for the most part, to put somebody really through the ringer. So if anyone could go up to someone and say, "Oh, I want to get faster at 10k. What can I do?" "Oh, well, you need to do 3 maximum effort, really hard runs, some sprints in there, and then you're going to do hill reps." And it's really easy to help somebody get faster. You just do more intensity, you run more. It's not rocket science. But when it comes to actually be able to make sure that you peak for your event, that's a very different question. Now, when somebody is starting out on their journey, they are going to be full of enthusiasm. And we're going to go into this in a bit more detail, but they have a habit of going really hard. "Oh, well, my marathon is 4 months away and I'm going to get training," and they start doing loads of volume, loads of intensity, and they end up getting injured or burning out, and they then take 2 weeks off, and it all gets really messy after that. They've got to rehab the injury. Whereas the idea with the training plan is that it slowly builds you up in little increments, in little steps, to help make sure that when you get to the top, when you get to a week or two out from your race, you can then dial back a little bit and make sure that you then go and are able to successfully complete your event. Now, we can argue in sports science, exercise science about just about anything. There are very few things which are set in stone in the world of sports science, because there are an awful lot of things to consider. The human body is extremely complex. And there's one principle I think just about everyone is on board with, and that is the concept of progressive overload. And that is that if you want to achieve more, you need to expose the body to a progressively greater level of stimulus. So if we are looking at a 8-week training plan, every week is going to be harder than the last to make sure that we are achieving our goals. Now, in most cases, week 4 might actually be an easy week to allow you to recover, where you're going to allow your body to actually adapt and get fitter. But the point remains that you're going to see this nice exponential, generally speaking, exponential increase. Okay. Now, when it comes to that's sort of how you roughly sort of would structure a plan. But reasons that somebody would want to look at a plan, where somebody might think, I think I need to get myself a training plan rather than just making it up, is the structure that comes with it. So it is the fact they can wake up and they go, right, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? They like knowing that if they follow this plan, that they're going to achieve their goals. Now, this is a lot easier said than done for a lot of people. Now, when I first started out in triathlon, I worked in the film industry. Very long hours, very unpredictable. I might be working non-stop for 6 weeks with very little time to train and then have a month off. So for me, following a training plan was never an option. But some people, if they've got more predictable jobs, more predictable lives, okay, then they may actually really benefit from having that rigidity, that structure in their life. I'm going to do something that some of you may think less of me of. No! So it's the only way that I can get her to stop whining incessantly in my ear. And it is very difficult to concentrate. She's going to be miserable and she's going to get up and she's going to go upstairs. Aren't you? Go on. I know, but if you can't play nice, if you can't sit here quietly when I'm talking to these nice people, okay, we are settling down again. That's fine, I just need you to be quiet. Well, quietish. they like that level of structure. They like sort of that level of accountability to themselves, as it were. Now, it's a big sigh. They know that, you know, they are holding themselves to account. They can see if they hit all of their workouts this week, they're doing really well. Okay, and they don't necessarily have a coach watching over them, but they know they have got that sense of like internal accountability. They know that as long as they follow the training plan, they're doing the right things. It can also reduce the sense of overwhelm, especially for people who don't have an awful lot of spare time to sit there and to do all this research on the best way to go about things. They don't need to think, they just know what session it is that they need to turn up to each day. And that, it just gives them a huge peace of mind, and it's a lot less stress. They're not wondering, is this the right thing to do? Is this going to work? Am I going to get injured? And we can never, we can never guarantee that somebody will never get an injury. But they know that they are doing, probably, one of the best things for them in their body by following this plan. That being said, a training plan is not a spreadsheet. Your body's not a spreadsheet. It's not a case of, if I wrote somebody a 16-week marathon plan, it's not a case of, oh, well, as you missed a workout last Wednesday, now you're not going to complete your marathon and everything's like, you missed a session, how could you? That is not how training plans are written. That's not how the human body works. We're getting your body in the best position possible to be able to complete that. But I don't think anyone ever has absolutely nailed every single session over like a training plan perfectly, assuming we're looking like 8 weeks or so, because people are going to be unwell, people are going to sleep really poorly, people are going to have emergencies, other things turn up in their life, they're going to have to work late, there are all sorts of things that can affect it, and every single training plan is going to be written with some contingency. Now if you miss a week, that's a little bit different. And again, this can't always be helped. I had the flu back in the spring, winter, and it absolutely laid me on my back. And I was unable to do anything for about 2 weeks. If I was training for a marathon, a triathlon, yeah, that would have had a definite impact on my ability to prepare. But a single session missed here and there, it's not a big deal. And some people think that a training plan is pass-fail. So, if you tick all the sessions off, you've passed, well done, you've done it. If you miss a session, you failed, you're a failure, you're not good enough, all these things that people tell themselves. And I think, people who maybe come from more sort of, like scientific backgrounds or corporate worlds where there are these strict rules to follow, they can fall into that mindset a little bit. But the reality is, as long as you're getting good like 80-90% of the sessions done, that is the most important thing. And a training plan is not pass-fail. In fact, you could do all of the sessions perfectly, and it doesn't necessarily even mean that you will be able to achieve your goals on the day, because there's a good chance that training plan wasn't written for you individually. There is like so much going on, but a training plan will vastly increase your chances of achieving your goals, whatever they are. It will vastly increase the chance of you achieving your goals relative to going out and training on your own. Now, you may wonder, well, why is it that the best athletes in the world have coaches? Surely the likes of Michael Phelps, this guy's got more gold medals than most people have teeth, not quite, Olympic medals maybe. How is it that he needs someone to tell him what to do? Well, there are a few reasons. Firstly, there's a lot about, just because an athlete knows which sessions they like doing, they enjoy doing, doesn't necessarily mean those sessions are the right things for them. I'll get onto that in a little bit. But it is, they need that outside perspective. They need someone to be able to look at their training objectively, rather than saying, oh, you know what, let's just focus on things that we like to do. Look, these are the things that actually you have to do. And it is important to to have that outside influence, that outside opinion on your training. Yes, you can self-coach. I know some people who have self-coached themselves to, really achieving really quite fantastic outcomes, such as sub 10-hour Ironman finishes. That's not to say they couldn't go under 9 hours or 9:30 if they were working with somebody who was able to give them some external sort of advice and influence. Some people are just borderline uncoachable. Some people have just got an anti-authority. They will push back. They don't want to be told what to do. They're always going to push back on any advice that they give them. And that's, that's sort of a bit of a mindset thing. And I've certainly coached some people who thought they wanted to coach, but actually they didn't. They didn't want to listen to the coach. They just thought that paying a coach money each month would make them faster. But it is still going to set you up really quite well. Now, of course, it always comes down to a personal decision as to whether it is that you want to actually go out and purchase a plan. Most of them are really very affordable. I would, in most cases, be very cautious of plans which you're looking at that cost like £250 for a 12-week training plan. This really is trying to, I don't think any plan can be worth that, honestly. I think it's a marketing thing. It's where the personal trainer, the coach, poses himself as being such an expert on the subject. They have the Midas touch. And if you pay them this extortionate amount for just a training plan that they just copy and paste and sell to everyone else, if you pay them that they will then you will then achieve your goals, because you have to, because look at all these slick videos and all this that they've done. But I would be very, very cautious of that. There's a good chance that you're going to waste your money. And if you were then to turn around and say, well, this doesn't work for me, then the blame will be placed on you in nearly every situation by those sorts of people. But if you are looking at sort of most plans, I think my Ironman plans start at around about £50 each. I'm going to be releasing some shorter ones actually, which will be a bit cheaper. They're just not out at the moment. And some of them you get for a lot cheaper. Sort of £25-30. I think this is money really well spent in most cases. It's not going to break the bank. It's the kind of money that you spend on a meal without really thinking about it. And it will really help you sort of achieve your goals. Now, if you are a more advanced athlete who is going, right, I need this training plan to help me achieve my goal. It could be I want to go under 4 hours at the marathon. It could be I want to be able to ride 100 miles in under 5 hours. Whatever the goal is, swim 10 kilometers, it could be that somebody even is, wants to compete in bodybuilding. For an advanced athlete, they don't need that same level of maybe accountability of, I need to do this, it's good for me. You're with an advanced athlete who's normally very motivated at the start of the process, at least. It's more about reducing the risk of overtraining. It's more about reining them in. It's much more about making them sort of slowing them down, because that overtraining or non-functional overreaching, as we might call it in the fitness space, but I call it overtraining for simplicity's sake. That overtraining is really, really sort of the worst possible thing that can happen. I hate to say it, but if you find yourself just going hard day after day, session after session, week after week, you are going to get to the point where your body just goes, I can't do this anymore. And I haven't got them down in front of me. I'm going to try and remember them off the top of my head. You need to, if you're worried about overtraining, look for the four H's. So happy. Obviously, we all have our own definition of what happiness is, but if you find there is a real downturn in your mental health, if you start suffering with slightly depressive episodes and thoughts, okay, that could be a sign that you're pushing your body too hard. Healthy. If you are constantly getting colds, if you're constantly getting coughs, if you're really unwell, Poppy, no. If you are just being really you're really unwell, then that's a sign that you're pushing your body really hard, that the immune system isn't able to do its job because you are just battering it constantly. Then we've got hungry. You should be hungry. You should be wanting to eat food. If you really have a sudden drop off in appetite, if you know that you should be eating but you can't stomach it, sort of for breakfast, lunch and dinner, this isn't just over short periods, because intense exercise especially can dampen our appetite. But if it is over a really sort of a notable period of days or weeks where you're just not feeling really hungry, that could be a sign of overtraining. And the fourth, H, is horny. We all have a different level of sex drive, but if we notice this real drop off in our libido, if we suddenly lose all interest, that, relative to where we would normally expect to be, perhaps at different times of the month, then that can be a real warning sign that, things are amiss, your hormones aren't aligned in your body, and that you are pushing yourself that little bit too hard. Now, each one of those in isolation doesn't necessarily mean you're overtraining. It's just something to really keep front and center in your mind, to make sure that you are, you're just ensuring that you don't burn out too hard. You don't end up, going super hard for 4 weeks and then sort of blowing up and then not really do much training between then and your event, which is a trap a lot of people actually fall into. It also sort of makes you do sessions that aren't necessarily your favourite. If you hate doing hill reps, but they're in the training plan, then you're going to go, right, I guess I better go do these bloody hill reps then, because they're in the plan. Because they will be really good for you. It's important for nearly everyone to do a huge variety of distances. If you are really a fan of doing sort of short sprint efforts for sort of 30 seconds, then go, oh, actually, you know what, we're going to do sort of 10 minutes at threshold, and we're going to repeat that 3 times with a 5-minute break. Okay, that may be your worst enemy, but if you're training for a 10K, that's the kind of thing you need to be doing. So it really does help you sort of remove that sense of prejudice in your mind of sessions that you think you should be doing. And I've already touched on this, but it's important for preventing injury. So along with the risk of burnout comes the risk of injury. If a training plan includes strength work, that will really help. But we're being careful with the intensity, we're being careful with the volume, we're not asking too much of the body too soon. Now, this is sort of the issue we have, is that no plan that you buy off the shelf is going to be tailored for you. So you could look at, all right, okay, I want to do a half marathon. And you look at all of the plans and you go, well, that one's too easy. That one's a bit hard for me. And there aren't really any that are going to be, well, it's unlikely you'll find one that is perfectly suited for you and your fitness. Some of them, may start out too easy. A lot of them will start out sort of too easy for you in air quotes. You think, I can do more. But the fact is that if you look at the last kind of 2 months of the plan, actually that is really hard. And they're just building you up slowly to help reduce the risk of injury. But there will be times where you might need to just give yourself a little bit of creative license to edit the plan a little bit. It could be that, you need to take 2 rest days a week because of personal circumstances. And that's absolutely fine. You just need to then be able to go, okay, well, which session is the least important that I can drop? Or could I maybe stack 2 sessions in one day to make up for that? Again, it's completely up to you. There is no real right or wrong answer here. But, I've touched on this briefly already. But following a training plan, it just saves you an enormous amount of time and energy and research. Now, when you are sitting down for hours on end, scrolling through YouTube videos that are 10 minutes longer than they need to be because they want to pad them out to get as many ads in there as possible, or you're looking at unqualified influencers online who are trying to tell you need this supplement, it's going to help give you a guaranteed personal best, or people on forums who are arguing about, the best brand of bike or whatever, it can be so confusing to go, hang on a minute, like what is true? What is the right kind of training for me to be doing? So many opinions out there. But by following a good training plan written by a reputable qualified coach, you don't have to think about that, okay? Of course, I'm not saying that you should never be curious and start investigating other things. I'm not saying that at all. I do like it when athletes that I coach go out and come back with a few ideas. Go, oh well, I read about this. What do you think of this? And 9 times out of 10, it's something they've read that I've debunked, and I'll share the reason with that for them. Sometimes they do come back with interesting things there, where we can have a little bit of a conversation about how we might want to maybe include that in our training. And there are 2 types of training plan, really. You have your off-the-shelf plans, and these are the ones that I sell through Greyhound Fitness, and I do sell them through Phase On Triathlon as well, where you just go onto a storefront and you go, oh yes, I want that training plan, that's the one for me, and you buy it, and there we go, sorted. You then go and you follow it. Now this is an affordable way to do it, because they are, they're not copy-paste, but because they are sort of written to try and be a generalized program, then they are rigid in that the plan can't really be changed, it can't really be edited for you. You don't get any feedback from it, so you're not going to have somebody who's there, oh, you know what, I think this is too easy for you, oh, I think this is too hard for you. It's just going to be you, and you're going to have to be sort of asking yourself whether you need to stick with the plan or maybe sort of edit it a little bit. Again, as we touched on, it could be too easy, or it could be way too hard. And it's, you can look, most training plans that have sample weeks that you can have a look at and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. So it starts off like I clearly need to be able to run for an hour non-stop before I start this Ironman plan. And the longest ride on the first weekend is 2.5 hours. I can do that. Yes, that plan should be fine for me. But you then look, and it could be that it gets a lot harder, a lot quicker than you're expecting. Obviously, there's only so much information that we can give away before you buy a plan, because otherwise people just sort of steal them, really. But it could be easy, it could be too hard. They are very affordable. They are in some cases completely free. There are, if you Google free marathon training plan, you'll get a bunch of training plans come up that you can then go and follow. The downside to these training plans is that they're not based that you sort of tripping over words here. If you have a sports watch, like a Garmin or an Apple Watch, a Suunto, Polar, Coros, whatever it is, then if you buy a training plan through Training Peaks, which where I sell most of mine, you will get a workout sent to your watch. And if you set up Training Peaks correctly and you have an accurate threshold heart rate, so if I go, my threshold heart rate is 175 beats per minute, then my watch, when I'm doing a session, will come up and go, okay, warm up, stay between 60 and 120 beats per minute. And now we're doing an interval, stay between 150 and 175 beats per minute. And, it can, just making numbers up there, but it gives you accurate numbers and it gives you a timer, 3, 2, 1, go. And the watch really coaches you through your workout. Whereas a free plan, it will just be 30 minutes easy. 2 times 5 minutes hard with 30 seconds rest. Okay, so it's basic. It will do the job. It's not going to talk to your devices. You could go in and you could create sort of bespoke workouts within Garmin Connect or the equivalent. But the fact is, by the amount of time you'd have to spend doing that for every workout, how much do you value your time versus just paying sort of 25 quid for a training plan? Again, only you can answer that. But they are really quite affordable. Whereas if you're looking at a bespoke plan, that is a slightly different kettle of fish. So a bespoke plan is where you go to a coach such as me, and you go, Simon, I want to complete my first 70.3 Ironman. I go, great, really cool. So what level of service would you like? Okay, you'd like that level of service. So tell me about you. How many hours a week do you have available to train? What equipment do you have? What family commitments do you have? What's your work schedule like? And I can then go away and I can then build you a training plan. You go, oh, that's great, thank you. You then go away and you do it. Now, depending on the level of service that you want, it could be that you have daily feedback, that you have monthly feedback, or you have no feedback at all. Again, depends on your budget, depends on your personality. Some people just don't want to talk to me daily. Some people find it super helpful. So there's that, and these bespoke plans can also be edited, again, depending on the level of service. If you miss a week because of illness, that can be taken into account. If your child, you have to then drop them off at football every Tuesday evening and you can't do a double session that day, cool, we work around that. So it really can be built around you. And if it's something you can afford to do, then I recommend you do it. But in most cases, a month of a bespoke plan probably cost as much, if not more, than a standalone plan of some sort of events. So it depends on your budget, but I do think that if you look at the overall picture, so if you look at somebody looking to do an Ironman, who's looking to get all the kit from scratch, okay, you could be looking at between starting from zero and crossing the Ironman finish line, depending on the kind of bike you go for, depending on where the race is, the travel, the accommodation, all of that, you could be looking at the best part of 10 grand to complete that Ironman. And if you're looking at spending 10 grand, is spending sort of $1,000 on having a really bespoke coach to make sure that you take hours off of your time going to be worth it? I mean, I'd like to think so. But again, it depends on people, it depends on their budget. A lot of people just try and do it on an absolute shoestring, and you know what? That's absolutely fine. That's how I started out. But if you're doing, your first marathon, you don't necessarily want to go for something all singing, all dancing. You just want something that's going to organise your runs, in which case, an off-the-shelf plan is absolutely fine, and you may not even need that bespoke level. A good plan will be built around specific targets. So as I talked about the heart rate thresholds, we also have pace thresholds, power thresholds that we can build this all around. And at different points, if we're training to power or to pace in the plan, we'll retest our threshold, see how much fitter we've got, and all the targets will increase as a result of that. And it'll help to ensure that it keeps pushing you. Yes, I know. I'm going to wrap this up not too long now. I'm starting to get towards the end of my notes. We can get some din-dins, okay? Yeah? Yeah? You terror. There is a plan out there for everyone. There are sort of tens of thousands of training plans available. It could be that you look at something like the Training Peaks web store, the Training Heroic web store. It could be that you look at, you just sort of Google something such as bodybuilders legs plan, something. There are loads out there that you should be able to find one of the suitable length and the suitable intensity for you. In most cases, if somebody buys a plan and within 24 hours they realise it's wholly inappropriate for them, I and most other people will give a refund. But after a week or so, it's like, are you just copying down everything in the plan? Do you just copy and paste the plan and now you're asking for a refund? Because that is always something that, it's our intellectual property at the end of the day. It's something you have to be a little bit careful about. But if you get in touch with somebody immediately and go, yeah, this plan is clearly not for me, we will at the very least offer to exchange it for one that might suit you better. And any plan, I think, is superior to just doing random training or wandering around the gym, just vaguely hoping that you'll get results. I think it really, it can be frustrating, it can be demotivating, it can be off-putting if you're not seeing results. And of course, once you get to a point, everybody's going to hit some kind of a plateau within their development in their sport of choice. Hang on. And getting off of that plateau is always quite difficult. And a training plan can be a really good way to achieve that. But even if you're new to the sport or that way of training, whatever it is that you're doing, and you're not seeing any progress, I think, a good kind of like 80-90% of people will leave the gym because they're not seeing progress. Well, because they're not doing the right kinds of things, or they're not sticking with it long enough to see that progress. They imagine that, they go to the gym, they lift a few weights for half an hour, they go home and they try and look, see if their biceps got bigger, without actually thinking, hang on a minute, it might actually take 4 months of hard work for me to actually really be able to see a difference in size. It's also sort of a training plan. It's more engaging. It's more rewarding for me personally, the group exercise. Now, I'm not saying that, group exercise is inherently bad. I think I said before, I'm a big fan of it when it comes to just getting people into a routine. You're adding that social element. And if somebody says, oh, I'm going to train for this, but I'm going to do this group exercise class, I'm going to do Pilates twice a week. Yeah, sure, whatever. Like, it's all the same to me. But I think that if somebody is just doing group exercise, if they just do 1 or 2 classes a week, oh yes, but there's an easy version, there's a medium version, and a hard version that you can follow. Okay, great. But what happens when you can complete the hard workouts comfortably? You could sort of stay there for the community, but you really are doing yourself sort of a disservice with your progression and your own fitness, your own health, by just sort of sticking doing that. Because with a training plan, the sky is the limit. It could be, oh, okay, I'm looking to get fitter and I'm training for this ultra marathon. Okay, 6-hour run this weekend. That's what we need to do. Whereas with the group exercise, you're never going to be able to achieve that level of stimulus, that level of calorific burn or progressive overload, whatever it is that you're looking for. Training plans not generally recommended for just sort of weight loss, because the reason for it being is that that's all achieved really sort of in the kitchen, as they say. Your diet has far more influence than any plan will over your ability to lose weight, or body fat, I should say, really. But it is, for most other areas, sort of strength, bodybuilding, endurance sport, it really is the way to go. And it has to be said that follow training plan can be less social. Now, for some people, they've got no problem with that. They don't actually want to go to a group with all the drama. They don't want to have to be restricted to swimming sort of within the sessions that the triathlon club has the pool for. They don't want the they don't want the drama that always occurs between members. They don't want, they don't like one of the people there, they find them a bit creepy, perhaps. If they just want to train on their own, training plan's absolutely fine. But equally, if you are following a training plan, that's not to say that you couldn't incorporate group sessions in there. If you just want to go for an easy social run, just run at the approximate pace that's set within your plan with friends. Now this can be a bit of a problem if you are on the if you're cycling and you go, I need to stay in zone 2. Everybody slow down. Everybody slow down. That is a little bit of a dick move, expecting everybody else to be able to run at the same speed as you. But if you can say to a friend of yours, like 1 or 2 friends, oh hey, I'm doing a long run this weekend, heading out for 90 minutes. I'm probably going to be around 6 minutes per kilometre. That's what I'm aiming for. Do you want to come along? People are, yeah, that'd be good. Come along. Equally, you could do all of your sessions with them. It's completely up to you. It doesn't have to be a completely solo adventure, even though for many people it is. I think that's covered that. That is a much shorter episode than usual. I've got that down as being around about 40 minutes. Or is it 50 minutes? No, 40 minutes. But I guess I don't really want to pad this episode out and repeat myself endlessly. I think I've covered all that I really need to cover. There are a few different elements there that I could go into in further episodes. But for now, I think I'll leave that there. I think I need to feed my dog. Yeah? Do you need food? Is it time? Is it time? Yeah? And thank you for joining me again this week. I hope you at least feel inspired by this to go out and to give a training plan a go if you've never done it already. It can feel a bit kind of intimidating, a bit scary for some beginners who maybe want some think, oh, it's for serious athletes. No, it's not. It's for anyone who wants structure. It's for anyone who wants a clear progression in their training, rather than just doing the same thing over and over and expecting to get fitter from it. I mean, you will, if you just do the same thing over and over, you will progressively get fitter, but nowhere near as fit as if you were, following a plan with some real progressive overload in it. So, thanks once again. See you all next week.